everybody, Deathstalker here. So today I thought I'd talk about something that happened on the racetrack one time in a practice session. And it was a little bit scary, and then it became quite a big pain in the ass for the rest of the season. And luckily I had some people with some very good skills to save me a lot of money. So what was happening, it was on a practice session, just a typical Saturday at the racetrack, and I was coming on the main straightaway, which is where the pits are located, and you know, typical hard on the gas, accelerating, and just across the start finish line I heard a sound. It sort of sounded like your transmission shifted, but it didn't. And then there was a big clunk sound, and then the sound of a large whack, and then nothing. And I had, my engine was running, but I had no acceleration. And some of my friends were actually on the pit wall. They were watching me and a few other guys out in practice to sort of see, you know, how the track condition was and how we were going, because generally what you do is you sort of you see how your friends are doing, and you can get a rough idea how the track's going to be for your practice session. And all of a sudden these guys started waving their hands and telling me to slow down and stop and all that sort of stuff. Well, I already knew something wrong with the bike, so I already had the clutch pulled in. I've had a seizure twice, so I knew that wasn't the problem, but there was something definitely not right. And I managed to get the bike stopped right at the exit from the pits to the track, and pushed it right back into the pits, and the guys came running up and they went like, you threw a chain. And it's like, so I looked down, and sure enough, there ain't no chain. It's gone. Now, racing chains are not really meant for long life. They're like almost like a throwaway item, and they you use them for, you know, however many races you get out of them, and then you throw them away and get a new one. They tend not to be O-ring chains, because anything that increases friction reduces power, therefore makes you slower. And they tend to be, actually back then they were actually pretty cheap. They were around $19–20 a chain, which even back then was not expensive. Now I was a little bit different in that I was spending a little bit more for a chain. I was buying a slightly heavier chain. Part of it was because, like, I weighed about 200 pounds, which for a 250 racer was actually kind of heavy. But it also just, these chains tended to last about 3 times longer than the $20 chains. And I've never actually had one break. And what actually had happened was the chain itself didn't break, but the master link had failed. And these master links are not a slim little item. They're every bit as strong as the chain itself. And I guess it just decided it had enough. It snapped off and the chain just came off. And man, this is the world's longest stoplight here. I'll crack my visor for a second so I can breathe. So anyways, we took a little time to examine the bike, and you know, I took a hit. Now with the fairing on the bike, you really couldn't see much, so we got it back into the pits. And what had happened was, when the chain came off, oh come on, like, this is pissing me off. So obviously it's not working for motorcycles, only working for cars. Bastards. Okay. Okay. Do this back in here. So anyways, what had happened was, when the chain came off, it actually had hit my engine cases here. I'll post a picture of it. And what literally happened was, I took a hit right where the linkage goes into the transmission for the clutch. And you can't really see there because it's been repaired, but it literally blew a hole right through the case and actually cracked some of the substructure behind it, which was, there was a lot of energy there. Now, there was no way I could actually go for a practice or anything like that with my engine cases like that, and engine cases are not the sort of thing you have spares of. So my mechanic was at the track, and he came by and looked at my engine, and he said, okay, he told me to go talk to one of the superbike riders and see if I could borrow this sort of epoxy material. He says it won't work perfect, but it'll get you through the weekend. So there was this epoxy, like it looked like a gray sort of a toothpaste, and you mix it up, and basically you just sort of you dried and cleaned that section as good as best you can, and you sort of stuck this in there. It looked like a piece of Play-Doh or plasticine, but it stopped the leak to like just a little bit of a weeping issue. And so I was actually able to race it that weekend. I can't remember anything about the race, but so when we got home back to the track, from the track, we had to actually pull the engine apart and split the cases to get at it. And he had this different type of material, which was a lot stronger. And he says when this stuff sets up, you actually can mill the cases like they're made out of, like this epoxy will set up like aluminum, which was, you know, it was actually kind of cool. So we set it all up, installed the stuff, and basically what I had for the rest of the season was a really good set of a really good patch. So you know, it still leaked a little bit because there were some hairline cracks we couldn't see. So what happened was I ended up talking to a friend of mine who was a racer, and he also was a welder, and he said, well, you know what, I can weld those cases up, but we're going to have to do some stuff. And the first thing you had to do was make up a fake shifter linkage to stick in the cases, which is basically a steel blank machine to fit in the opening. And then we had to get an old engine crankcase and put that in there to replace all the existing parts, because what will happen is when you heat up aluminum to weld it, it will distort. And what he did was he actually got in there and he uses bigger TIG welder to actually weld up everything there to actually make it completely tight. And that's what you see in the picture there is actually a repaired case. And I was able to race that engine for the, you know, till I actually retired. So that's the sort of things that happen to the racetrack that you have to adapt and overcome. And we managed to do it. Never missed a race. Bit of a concern for a while, but we managed to get by. So anyways, Death Stalker signing off.